The dry wind of the frontier whistled through the tall prairie grass, carrying with it the smell of dust, smoke, and a world half tamed. Out beyond the faint line of the new railroad, a man rode alone on a bay horse, his boots scuffed, his hat tipped low, and his eyes searching for something more than just the next day's meal. His name was Elias Carter, a ranch hand-turned drifter who had fought in the war, worked the cattle trails, and buried too many friends to count. The frontier was full of men like him, men who had lost homes, brothers, and fortunes, and now carried themselves like shadows of what they once were. Elias had just 50 cents left in his pocket. 50 cents, a worn Bible that had belonged to his mother, and a revolver that had kept him alive more than once. That morning, he stopped in the town of Dry Creek, a place with one saloon, one church, and more dust than water. It was there that an old man at the general store leaned across the counter, eyes glittering, and said, "Son, I've got something you might be interested in. A cabin, out on the edge of the prairie. Nobody wants it. Too run down, too many stories. You can have it for 50 cents. Elias laughed, thinking the man was jesting. But the old man just spat into a tin can and said, "Truth be told, it ain't worth more than that. But it's shelter, and a man like you looks like he could use a place to set down for once in his life." Elias thought about it. 50 cents for 4 walls and a roof, even if the roof leaked. It was all he had, but it was also a chance at something different than wandering. He paid the old man, signed his name with a dull pencil, and by dusk, Elias was standing before his purchase, an old cabin sagging under its own weight, the boards gray and weathered, the windows broken, the door hanging off its hinges. It wasn't much, but it was his. The discovery. That night, Elias decided to clean out the cabin. He swept away the layers of dust, cleared the cobwebs, and stacked old, broken furniture outside. Then, as he moved toward the back of the single-room shack, he noticed something odd. A pile of hay, dirty, matted, and out of place. Why would there be hay inside, not outside in the barn? Curiosity gnawed at him. He kicked at it with his boot, scattering the dry stalks. Something clanked. Metal. Chains. His heart stopped. Elias dropped to his knees, digging through the hay. Beneath it, in the dark corner of the cabin, he uncovered something he would never have expected. A young woman, shackled by iron chains, her wrists bruised, her eyes wide with terror. She flinched away from him, whispering in a hoarse voice, "Please, don't." Elias froze. The war had shown him cruelty, but this was something different. Slowly, he raised his hands. "Easy now, I ain't gonna hurt you." The woman stared at him, trembling. Her hair was tangled, her dress torn and dirt-stained, but beneath the grime he saw that she was young, barely 20, maybe younger. Her ankles were bound by heavy shackles bolted into the cabin floor. Elias swallowed hard. "Who did this to you?" She shook her head violently, tears spilling down her cheeks. "They'll come back," she whispered. "They always come back. Breaking the chains. It took Elias an hour to find a rusted hatchet in the shed behind the cabin. With careful blows, he broke the wood around the iron bolts and freed her from the floor. The chains on her wrists and ankles remained, but at least she could move. When the last bolt snapped, she collapsed forward, sobbing. Elias caught her, holding her carefully as though she might shatter. "You're free now," he murmured, though he wasn't sure if she believed him. She clutched his shirt, her voice shaking. "They'll kill you if they find me. With you." Elias stiffened. Whoever had put her here wasn't far, then. Her story. Over the next few days, Elias learned her name, Clara Whitfield. She had been promised as a mail-order bride to a wealthy rancher named Silas Boone, a man twice her age and infamous for his cruelty. When Clara had tried to resist on her wedding night, Boone had beaten her and locked her away in the old cabin, hidden from sight, while he searched for another young bride to claim. She wasn't the first, Clara said one night, her voice trembling as the fire crackled. "And I wouldn't have been the last." Elias's jaw tightened. He had known men like Boone in the army, men who thought power gave them the right to take what they pleased. "You're safe with me," Elias promised. But he knew safety was a fragile thing on the frontier. Trouble comes. Word traveled fast in small towns. By the end of the week, Elias noticed eyes on him whenever he rode into Dry Creek. Men muttered under their breath. The sheriff, a thin man with a gut too big for his frame, warned him. You best stay clear of Boone's business. That girl belongs to him. Elias's blood boiled. She don't belong to nobody. But Boone wasn't a man to let go of what he claimed. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, a group of riders appeared on the ridge. Boone was among them, his black coat flapping, his face twisted with arrogance. Carter, he shouted across the field. You got something of mine. Hand her over, and I might let you live. Elias stepped out onto the porch of his cabin, rifle in hand. Clara stood behind him, clutching the doorframe. She's not yours, Elias said coldly. Not now, not ever, Boone sneered. Then you just signed your death warrant. The siege. That night, Boone and his men surrounded the cabin. Shots rang out, bullets splintering the wood. Elias returned fire from the window, his rifle steady, his heart pounding. Clara crouched low, praying aloud, her chains rattling softly. Hours passed. The cabin was riddled with holes, smoke filling the air. Elias's ammunition dwindled, but he fought like a man who had nothing left to lose. When dawn finally broke, Boone himself kicked down the door. Elias met him head-on, fists flying, the two men crashing into the dirt outside. Boone was bigger, meaner, but Elias had rage and desperation on his side. Blow after blow, he fought until Boone lay gasping, beaten and broken. The remaining riders fled, leaving their master in the dust. Freedom. When it was over, Elias stood panting, his knuckles bloody, his shirt torn. Clara rushed to his side, tears streaming. It's over, he whispered, holding her close. But Clara shook her head. No, not yet. She lifted her shackled wrists. Elias nodded grimly. He pried the keys from Boone's coat and unlocked the chains that had bound her for so long. The heavy iron fell to the dirt with a dull thud. Clara stared at her freed wrists in disbelief, then looked at Elias as though seeing the sun for the first time. What now? She asked softly. Elias smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Now we live, not run, not hide. Live. And for the first time in years, Elias felt like he finally had something worth staying for.